Yo, guys, Justin James with the 10-7 here with UFC 322 on the approach. We have a killer matchup, and I'm talking about the return of Bo Nickal taking on Rodolfo Vieira. And honestly, coming into this matchup, I couldn't say much about Rodolfo. I had never heard of him before. He's currently 6-3 in the UFC. Bo Nickal coming off his big loss and a finish from RDR and his most recent bout. But let's get into this matchup. It's a very interesting matchup. We have, top world-class wrestler going against world-class jiu-jitsu practitioner. Let's get into Rodolfo because, like I said, before this matchup was released, I didn't know much about him. And I'm very happy to know a little bit more what to expect out of Rodolfo. So here we go. Rodolfo, the black belt hunter, coming to this contest, 11 wins, 3 losses. He was undefeated when he got to the UFC. 36 years old, standing 6 foot tall, 73-inch reach. Last fight was just a couple months ago out of Brazil. 1 win by KO, 9 wins by submission, 1 win by decision. So as you can see, this guy's always hunting for the submission victory here. As I mentioned, 6-3 in the UFC. But, when I look at this guy's resume, I'm just not that impressed. I'm going to be honest. Let's go down to his UFC debut. Like 2019 UFC debut. He's only fought 9 times in the last 6 years. He hasn't been very active, but I don't recognize this guy's name. Has a couple grappling matches. Back to the UFC. Don't recognize this guy's name. Anthony Hernandez, obviously we recognize Fluffy. He loses by submission to Fluffy. Dustin, know a little bit about him, but not too much, not enough to where I could talk about this matchup. My teammate Chris Curtis looks like the UFC was trying to bump him. I mean, what a big jump from 70 to 18. Lose the decision to Chris Curtis. Similar opponent to Bo Nickal. Bo Nickal also finished Cody Brundage by submission. Armin, mildly familiar. Derek Brunson, obviously familiar with him. Andre Patorsky, don't really know him. Trusin Gore. Guys, the thing with Rodolfo is I'm just not that familiar with his resume and the guys he's beat. And it just seems like when I'm watching his footage, like he's a one-trick pony. His striking is very elementary. His submission game obviously is very high class. His wrestling is okay. He doesn't really set up his takedowns. He kind of just dives in for a double leg without even throwing any punches. His striking is, like I said, very elementary. He's fine with pulling guys on top of him and fighting off his back. And I think that's really going to be the difference maker here when he goes up against Bo Nickal. Now, let's get to the American. Bo Nickal, who I am a big fan of with how great his wrestling pedigree is. Take a look at his Tapology. Coming in this contest, 7 wins, 1 loss. He was 7-0 going against RDR. He's Division I national champion in wrestling. One of the best wrestling resumes we have in the UFC. 6'1", with a 76-inch reach. Only 29 years of age. 2 wins by KO, 4 wins by decision, 1 win by submission, 1 win by decision. 4-1 in the UFC, as I mentioned. And there's that Cody Brundage. They both finished him by submission. And, with how young he is, 29 years old, the UFC is doing right by him. They're trying to build him. Jamie Pickett, relatively familiar name. I have no idea who Val Woodburn is. Donovan Beard, I don't think he's been back to the UFC since getting finished. Cody Brundage, I know him because, I've seen him on some cards before. And again, Rodolfo also fought him and finished him by submission. Look at Paul Craig. This is a great step up in a high-level grappler, Paul Craig. But, man, what a snooze fest this fight was for him to go out there by decision. The UFC says, all right, let's see if this guy's ready. Throws him against RDR. RDR coming 19-2 in this fight and kind of got made look like a chump in this fight. And that gets us to our Rodolfo matchup now. Does Bo Nickal have very good striking? Not really. He switches back and forth from orthodox to southpaw. His wrestling is relatively predictable. If he's in a southpaw stance, he'll throw an overhand left, and he'll try to step his right leg behind If the guy's in an orthodox stance, step his lead leg behind the lead leg of his opponent to try to trip him up. If he's in an orthodox stance, he'll do the opposite, kind of like I like to do, where I'll throw an overhand right, step my back leg in front of, behind the lead leg of my opponent. I did in my last fight a couple times. But again, striking very elementary. Now, the one thing I will say is Bo Nickal does have 2 wins by knockout. All right, whether it came on the feet or not, Rodolfo doesn't. So I'm going to give Bo Nickal a slight striking advantage. Maybe if we're going out of 100%, maybe he's at 55%. Nothing insane, nothing crazy, but a little bit, just because he's willing to get in there and throw. When you look at Rodolfo, he's not as much anyways. Rodolfo comes out in an orthodox stance, and essentially he'll wait for his opponent to engage, and he just dives in for a double or dives in for a single. And if he can't get the double right away, he'll grab that single leg and he'll pull guard. Kind of a boring fighter to watch, really. Kind of was taking a nap while I was watching him fight because it's just really predictable. Like I said, they're both going to be looking for a double leg early on, I feel. When we look at the matchup, how the odds maker have is I'm going to give Bo Nickal an advantage here. I think he's the better wrestler. I think he's going to have better top pressure. I think he has a little bit better striking, which doesn't say much. I think I saw the odds makers have this at like plus 200 for Rodolfo. Yeah, plus 185 for Rodolfo, minus 225. Rodolfo's, 3-2 in his last 5 when, the UFC wants to build Bo Nickal. He was on a 4-fight win streak, loses to RDR. And, I think they're giving him a matchup here that he needs to win. 29 years of age against 36 years of age. Man, it's, we look at this. This is what the prediction has, 1,400 votes. 84% think Bo Nickal's going to win by decision. And honestly, I'm going to have to agree with this, guys. I don't see either of these guys knocking each other out. I'm unsure if Bo Nickal is going to come out in an orthodox or a southpaw stance. He can do both of them, but he just does the same thing from each stance. He's going to throw an overhand right, and he's going to dive in for a shot. And, he's actually, and of course, Bo Nickal was such a great wrestling pedigree. I mean, he's so strong when he gets in those positions that he can wear on guys and take them down and beat them up. I think Rodolfo is going to be really aggressive off his back if he does get taken down. And, we have to go back to when Bo Nickal fought Paul Craig. I really wanted to see Bo Nickal use his wrestling, get on top of Paul and show the world that, going against a high-level grappler, that he couldn't get submitted. But Bo Nickal didn't do that. It was a very boring fight. They stayed on the feet for the most part. They both looked terrible on the feet. And Bo Nickal squeaks out a decision. I'm hoping Bo Nickal matures from that. I'm hoping he comes in there and says, hey, you know what? I'm a world-class wrestler. I can take Rodolfo down. I can beat him up, and I'm not worried about getting submitted. Now, could Rodolfo throw up a submission off the bottom and catch him? He could. But Bo Nickal is the up-and-coming star. He's 29 years old. He has the wrestling pedigree to take Rodolfo down. And maybe Rodolfo's expecting that. He's expecting to play off his back. The last thing I want to see is both of these guys not try to get into wrestling exchanges, not try to get into grappling exchanges, and we watch a very boring, a striking match against 2 high-level grapplers. When Bo Nickal has to come in here and he wants to show the fans and the MMA community that he's maturing as a fighter, he needs to use his best assets to win. And whether he's in a southpaw stance or an orthodox stance, which he will switch from fight to fight, he needs to be able to take guys down and beat them up. Use his wrestling behind his strikes to get on top, and then keep everything tight. Don't get your arms exposed. Don't get your neck exposed, because I tell you what, Rodolfo is a big, strong man. And if he catches a submission, he will break Bo Nickal's bones. He will put him to sleep. But I just want to see some maturity out of Bo Nickal. Rodolfo on his feet doesn't look like a threat to anybody. I mean, he looks like a physical specimen. He's out of Brazil. He's ripped. He's chiseled. I'm not going to say that he's on any juice, but I wouldn't be surprised at 30. Though actually, I am going to say he probably is. To look the way he does at 36, it's just incredible. And you look at Bo Nickal, who's a phenomenal athlete, but he looks nothing like Rodolfo. But regardless of that, I mean, I might give Rodolfo a little bit of a grappling edge here, but I tell you what, Bo Nickal's grappling is getting sharp, and he's working with world-class athletes. I'm going to give Rodolfo the grappling advantage. I'm going to give Bo Nickal the wrestling advantage. The way they both have a similar shot, they both just dive in. The only thing I like about Bo Nickal's over Rodolfo's is Bo Nickal will at least set it up with an overhand. Like I mentioned before, if he's in a southpaw stance, he's going to throw that overhand left and dive his head to the right side. If he's in an orthodox stance, he's going to throw the overhand right, dive his head across. And he's always trying to step behind the lead leg of his opponent to try to trip him up. And once Bo Nickal gets on top of you, man, it's tough, man. He has beautiful ground and pound. If this gets to a striking match, I think Bo's going to win a boring decision, but I don't see Rodolfo. He's very redundant in his game plan. I've seen Bo Nickal pull away from his game plan where he doesn't try to wrestle much. Like if you saw the Paul Craig one, because I think he was afraid of Paul Craig's grappling. But I see Rodolfo trying to take Bo Nickal down early in this fight. I see the grappling exchanges coming up on the feet, and I'm wondering what Bo Nickal will do with this. Guys, UFC narrative. The UFC wants Bo Nickal to win. I want Bo Nickal to win. Bo Nickal to win. He's the 29-year-old up-and-comer. He's an American hero in the wrestling community. And, you know, Rodolfo, 36 years of age. There's not much value in him keeping in the division. I really think the UFC is feeding him, hoping Bo Nickal wins and gets back on track, guys. Tell me what you think in the comments. Is Bo Nickal going to squeak this by? I'm taking Bo Nickal by decision, guys. Tell me what you think.